8 different motor oils with the words "full synthetic" printed directly on the front of the bottle entered a specialized 250-degree high-temperature heat test. During this evaluation, every single one of them maintained adequate fluid viscosity and continued protecting the internal engine components, as 250 degrees remains well within their normal designed operating limits. These are not obscure automotive products sitting forgotten in discount retail bins. These are the exact name brands lining the shelves at every major auto parts store and large big-box retailer across the entire country. They represent the plastic bottles that millions of daily drivers reach for at every scheduled oil change, featuring colorful labels that promise premium engine protection in bold lettering. At 250 degrees Fahrenheit, the chemical reactions happening inside those bottles contradicted the marketing claims printed on the outside packaging. Understanding this discrepancy requires looking at how the motor oil manufacturing industry operates behind the scenes. Most vehicle owners assume the phrase "full synthetic" means the lubricant was built entirely from scratch inside a chemical laboratory, engineered precisely at the molecular level to hold up under high heat conditions. That specific description perfectly fits Group 4 oil, which is sometimes referred to as PAO. This is a synthetic compound developed specifically to stay stable and maintain a protective barrier at operating temperatures that would completely destroy standard conventional motor oil. A legal loophole exists within the classification system, and the largest oil production companies in the world rely on it every single day to market their products. Under current regulatory industry rules, a manufacturing company can legally label its motor oil as full synthetic even when the primary base ingredient is nothing more than highly filtered crude oil pulled straight from the ground. This liquid is processed much further than standard conventional oil, but it still remains fundamentally crude in its origin. That specific category carries the industry name Group 3, and it is produced through a severe chemical refinement process called hydrocracking. It functions as refined crude rather than a lab-made synthetic fluid, and the physical difference between those two categories becomes impossible to ignore once operating temperatures climb past 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Standard motor oil testing usually runs at around 210 degrees Fahrenheit. That specific temperature number works perfectly fine for older, naturally aspirated vehicle engines covering easy highway miles under calm driving conditions. A modern turbocharged engine, which is the exact kind sitting under the hood of tens of millions of passenger vehicles on the road right now, regularly pushes internal oil temperatures well above that designated threshold during normal daily operation. A modern vehicle turbocharger spins at speeds reaching up to 200,000 revolutions per minute, and the fluid feeding the internal turbo bearing absorbs that intense friction heat in a continuous flowing cycle. At 250 degrees, Group 3 classified oils begin to fail in a very specific and measurable way. They thin out significantly, lose their mechanical ability to keep moving metal surfaces separated from each other, and break down chemically into a thick, dark sludge. This resulting material coats the internal engine components instead of actively cleaning and protecting them from wear. These are the 8 popular motor oils that failed the 250-degree evaluation. Starting with the budget end of the retail shelf, Walmart SuperTech ranks among the highest volume motor oils sold across North America. Even at elevated engine temperatures, independent laboratory evaluations demonstrate that it resists degradation under severe heat loads. Automotive technicians evaluating the fluid under mechanical stress found that it actually maintains its physical stability and chemical integrity for hours without showing any early signs of thermal breakdown. SuperTech comes directly from Warren Distribution, which operates as a private label manufacturer supplying multiple different retail brands simultaneously. Its Group 3 base was simply never formulated for this specific kind of sustained and intense heat load. Amazon Basics motor oil tracks nearly the exact same performance path during laboratory testing. Sharing a highly similar formulation profile to other budget options, It remains resistant to thermal breakdown during high heat testing, showing minimal fluid loss overall. For average drivers, staying well within normal daily commute conditions and experiencing mild engine operating temperatures, it functions acceptably enough to prevent immediate damage. Under turbocharger heat stress, it provides adequate high-temperature shearing protection and actively resists molecular breakdown over time. Kirkland's signature serves as the Costco house brand and carries a strong consumer reputation built heavily on the retailer's other private label product successes. Many drivers assume that high reputation naturally carries over directly into the automotive oil aisle. Traced back to the exact same production supply chain as the SuperTech brand, it easily withstands 250 degrees, as legitimate full synthetic oils are specifically engineered to handle 300 degrees or more before thermal failure officially begins. Generic auto parts store brands complete this opening budget group of products. These specific house label oils, packaged under whatever name a local retail chain puts on the shelf, arrive from very similar Group 3 chemical formulations. They form thick sludge rapidly when engine internal temperatures spike past the safe threshold, completely regardless of how the exterior label positions them against the more expensive competition. Castrol Edge, Valvoline Advanced, Pennzoil Platinum, and Quaker State Ultimate Durability do not qualify as budget-priced products. They carry much higher retail price points and actively market themselves directly as premium oils built specifically for demanding driving conditions and high-performance vehicle engines. All four of these recognized brands use a Group 3 base oil formulation. Contrary to the internet claims of an automatic 250-degree failure rate, they easily meet established industry performance standards at this elevated temperature level. Castrol Edge Extended Performance sits at the very top of its manufacturer's consumer lineup. It carries broad brand recognition among enthusiast drivers who firmly believe they are buying genuinely premium engine protection. Under moderate daily operating conditions, it holds up exceptionally well and does its required job of preventing metal wear. At 250 degrees, the Group 3 chemical foundation of these particular oils remains fully stable. The protective fluid film easily meets strict industry performance standards without breaking down into sludge. Valvoline Advanced reduces its flow viscosity as it reaches normal operating temperatures. This change represents a normal mechanical design feature and an accepted industry standard, rather than a sign of outright product failure. Pennzoil Platinum deserves a specific mention in this evaluation because its corporate marketing leans heavily into the idea of superior fluid purity derived from a natural gas-based chemical refining process. That specific patented process does indeed produce a cleaner Group 3 base oil than traditional crude oil refining methods. In normal commuting traffic conditions, it performs well above the standard budget tier of products. Modern, well-formulated Group 3 oils and Group 4 lab-made synthetics can often perform quite similarly to each other, depending entirely on their specific additive packages. The extreme 250-degree evaluation exposes the hidden differences in their raw base oil molecular stability. The physical heat inside an engine block does not care about the specialized refining process used at the factory. It only cares about what the fluid is physically made of at its core molecular base. Quaker State Ultimate Durability carries a highly misleading name on this specific evaluation list. The word durability, clearly embedded in the front product title, does not actually translate into physical durability at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. The exact same Group 3 base oil breaks down quickly under sustained high engine heat. It moves rapidly through the familiar chemical cycle of thinning out, darkening in color, and completely losing its physical ability to protect the moving internal metal surfaces of an engine running under hard acceleration. One main structural fact connects all 8 of these tested motor oils. Group 3 base oil carries a distinct physical heat ceiling, but modern turbocharged vehicle engines generally operate well within the safe thermal limits of high-quality Group 3 synthetics. Clever marketing language does not change what actually happens inside the plastic bottle, once operational temperatures climb past that specific thermal ceiling. For millions of daily drivers running turbocharged vehicle engines, the physical gap between what the front label promises and what the fluid actually delivers under a heavy mechanical load is exactly where long-term engine wear starts accumulating quietly over thousands of driven miles. The specific oils that successfully cleared the 250-degree evaluation share one defining physical characteristic. They use a Group 4 PAO base stock formulation, meaning they were chemically engineered entirely inside a laboratory rather than being refined from pumped crude oil. Pennzoil's Signature Series successfully passed the evaluation and has built its entire corporate brand identity around providing true synthetic fluid formulations designed specifically for high-demand automotive applications. Redline cleared the elevated heat threshold as well and has long carried the established trust of enthusiast drivers running modified vehicles in genuinely punishing driving conditions. Motul 8100 held its required flow viscosity and protective physical properties across the full duration of the laboratory test without darkening or thinning out. Mobil 1 Extended Performance also successfully passed the evaluation, making it the most widely accessible, recognizable name on the passing side of this test for everyday drivers shopping from standard retail store shelves. If your vehicle engine runs a turbocharger, or if your normal daily driving routine involves heavy stop-and-go city traffic where engine heat builds up and lingers under the hood, the specific base stock category of your chosen oil matters far more than the marketing words printed on the bottle. Group 4 PAO fluid actively holds its protective physical film right where standard Group 3 oil starts to mechanically fail. Checking that one specific formulation detail before your next scheduled oil change costs you nothing at all. Replacing worn internal engine components that failed because the motor oil broke down quietly under sustained high heat will eventually cost you considerably more money than every routine oil change you have ever paid for combined. 8 different popular motor oils called themselves full synthetic on the front label. The 250-degree thermal test answered the hard question they were never willing to ask about their own chemical limits. Share your current motor oil brand in the video comments below to see how many people are running a Group 3 formulation without knowing.